Max Verstappen, the Red Bull monster that the Formula One propaganda machine created to oust Lewis Hamilton, struck yet again during the closing moments of the Austrian Grand Prix, at the home of Red Bull, to threaten the future of the sport. It is eerily fitting that this should happen as the Tory propaganda machine that swept to power, with its biggest majority in more than 30 years, on the false promise of getting Brexit done, now stands on the verge of extinction. The Brexit monster that gave the Tories their moment of glory in 2019 is set to destroy them just 5 years later. By a freakish coincidence, is the Max Verstappen monster that Formula One created to oust Lewis Hamilton set to destroy it, some 3 years after their moment of crowning glory in Abu Dhabi 2021? But before going further to show how F1 have created a monster that is set to destroy them, we invite those of you who haven't yet done so, to like, comment, share, subscribe, and click the notification icon, to be notified when our next video is uploaded. Max, as we showed in a previous video, was created in the image of his vicious father and grandfather, who were both involved in a serious assault in 1998, which fractured a man's skull and left him in hospital for several months. Max's father was subsequently convicted for this assault but escaped jail, because Belgian law allowed him to pay a financial compensation instead. Undeterred, he went on to assault Max's mother, his girlfriend, and his own father. Max himself went on to uphold the family tradition when he assaulted Esteban Ocon in 2018 at the Brazilian Grand Prix, just 3 years after his entry into F1. It is therefore not surprising that Max, who burst onto the Formula One scene in 2015, at the young age of 17, has a driving style and behavior befitting of his pedigree. He quickly gained the nickname Crashtappen, as he routinely crashed with other drivers, prompting F1 to introduce the Verstappen rule. This rule, which outlawed Verstappen's practice of moving under braking, was introduced in 2016, after protests by other drivers. However, in the drive to oust Lewis Hamilton, he was encouraged to continue driving dangerously as he routinely received lenient treatment from the stewards. For example, exactly 5 years ago, at the same Red Bull ring, he was allowed to get away with barging Charles Leclerc off the track to gain victory. His offending reached a climax in 2021, when he was allowed to get away with crashing into Lewis Hamilton on multiple occasions, including at Imola, Silverstone, Monza, and Jeddah, while Sir Lewis had to take evasive action to avoid another collision in Brazil. It was in Monza that Max's dangerous driving almost cost Sir Lewis his life. To recall, it was the halo that saved Hamilton from the collision that Max caused, where his right rear wheel ended up on top of Sir Lewis's cockpit. It was against this backdrop that the two went into the title-deciding final race of the 2021 season, with the possibility that a collision which put both drivers out of the race would grant the title to Max. Of course, it is now a matter of record that having survived Max's early attempts to engineer a collision, Sir Lewis was cruising to victory, only for the FIA to revise the rules mid-race to snatch victory away from Sir Lewis and gift it to Verstappen. In the immediate aftermath of the race, as we have shown in a previous video, many drivers including Lando Norris were critical of the shocking decision on their radio communications, but once the anti-Lewis F1 propaganda machine swung into action, they revised their opinions. It is ironic that McLaren and Lando now have the effrontery to refer to the bias that they enabled at the time to criticize the monster that they were instrumental in creating. As we showed in yet another video, the then McLaren team principal, Zak Brown, played a key role in the anti-Lewis propaganda, in addition to normalizing the Abu Dhabi theft. Zak Brown had been the director of the motorsport network that attempted to launder Max's image by producing the fake report, which falsely claimed that he was the most popular driver in F1, with Lando Norris as the second most popular. Lando himself contributed to the normalization of the monster by representing that he and Max were close friends, and he was not the monster that many saw him as. It is somewhat ironic that Lando is now claiming to have lost respect for Max after he did to him what he had been routinely doing to Sir Lewis, while Lando and McLaren sang his praises. It is further ironic that Lando and McLaren forgot that it was in Austria in 2016 that Sir Lewis's teammate and former best friend, Nico Rosberg, caused a collision in an unsuccessful effort to crash him out of the race. In that year, as we showed in yet another video, Nico, ably assisted by Mercedes and the FIA, routinely attempted to collide with Sir Lewis in an effort to maintain the championship lead. It is somewhat ironic that Rosberg was ably assisted by lenient sanctions from the FIA, who ensured that he was never deducted any points as part of the numerous sanctions that he incurred for his transgressions. Of course, apart from using Max to prevent Sir Lewis from getting an unprecedented 8th title, F1 is also looking to him to overhaul the record that Sir Lewis shares with Michael Schumacher. Now that Lando is Max's closest competitor and therefore a threat to the ultimate objective of surpassing Sir Lewis, he is getting the Lewis treatment from his busy mate. Just like they did with Nico in 2016, and have been doing with Max since the beginning of his career, the FIA contrived to issue him with sanctions that fell short of stripping him of the points that he unlawfully acquired. Is it schadenfreude that Lando and McLaren, who have been in the forefront of laundering Max's image, are now reaping the benefits of their handiwork? Is it schadenfreude that the chickens that are coming home to roost for the Conservative Party are also coming home to roost for Lando and McLaren? But critically, what about the sport itself? How long before the chickens come home to roost for Formula One? Since 2016, many in F1 have been expressing their concerns that Max could possibly kill someone with his dangerous driving. Some, like Jacques Villeneuve, who were amongst the earliest to voice their concerns, have since succumbed to the propaganda machine. But will the propaganda machine and F1 survive should Max's dangerous driving result in a fatality? In the run-up to Abu Dhabi 2021, we started warning Formula One of the possible consequences of their creation of the Max Verstappen monster, but to no avail. Max himself has played up to his dangerous driving reputation in an effort to deter others from taking him on in close quarters. However, many have failed to be daunted by this self-proclaimed bruiser, including Sir Lewis, Charles Leclerc, George Russell, and now Lando Norris, to name but a few. How long before Max causes a fatal collision, as many are lining up to bust his myth? Now that F1 is a publicly traded company, will the sport survive, God forbid, a death arising from Max's dangerous driving? It is one thing for a dangerous sport like Formula One to survive the death of a driver. It is quite another to survive, God forbid, the wrongful death of a driver arising from a crash caused by the monster that Formula One created. Liberty Media have gone to great lengths to build the sport around Max Verstappen and cannot escape guilt by association. It is one thing to steal Sir Lewis's 8th title and launder the theft through extensive media control. It is quite another to survive the ravages of cancel culture. The fate of the Conservative Party has shown that there is a limit to what propaganda can achieve. And in the end, they have been consumed by the monster they created. Formula One, likewise, is now on the verge of being consumed by the monster it created. The F1 propaganda machine, which is still struggling to overcome the fallout from 2021, has now had the scandal revived by one of its co-conspirators. There is every chance that as the season progresses and the championship battle heats up, Max will face increasing competition from the ever-closer chasing pack. What then? His habit of moving under braking will come under greater scrutiny, and something will have to give. What are the chances that in the heat of battle, Max will revert to his old ways? What are the chances of Dirty Max Verstappen playing fair? Formula One have created this monster and they must now temper it or be consumed by it. He was booed in Spain and damaged in Austria, What does the future hold for him in the races to come? The sport has suffered considerably from Abu Dhabi 2021 and the subsequent runaway titles for Max. For the sport to grow, Max will need to face stiffer competition, and that will mean vying for positions on track. Either his reputation or that of the sport will suffer.